Why you must become selective. The lie that keeps you weak. There is a dangerous belief that most people carry, and it sounds noble. Be kind. Be open. Give everyone a chance. But what if I told you this belief is the exact reason you feel drained, overlooked, and disrespected? This is not kindness. This is unconscious self-abandonment. You were not taught to be kind. You were taught to be available. Available for manipulation. Available for emotional dumping. Available for people who give nothing, but take everything. And here's the uncomfortable truth. The world does not reward openness. It rewards discernment. The psychological law no one tells you. There is a law operating beneath every interaction. Not logic. Not fairness. But psychological selection. People are constantly scanning. Who is easy to access. Who seeks approval. Who cannot say no. And the moment they detect it, they assign your value. Not consciously, but instinctively. This is why manipulators don't chase strong people. They detect emotional availability without boundaries and move in. Because to them, that is not kindness. That is opportunity. As one principle of power psychology reveals, manipulators don't look for strength. They look for softness. And softness, without boundaries, is an open door. The empath trap. Why you attract the wrong people? If you've ever felt like you give more than you receive, you understand others deeply, but feel misunderstood, people come to you, but never stay for you. This is not coincidence. It is a pattern. You are conditioned to feel valuable only when you are needed, to read emotions, to adjust yourself, to keep the peace, not because you're good, but because at some point, your survival depended on it. The empath is often not born, but adapted. You became hyper-aware, not for connection, but for safety. And now, you carry that same pattern into adulthood. You don't choose people, you absorb them. Why being selective feels wrong. Here's where it gets dangerous. The moment you start pulling back, you feel guilt. The moment you say no, you feel selfish. The moment you stop explaining yourself, you feel like you're doing something wrong. But understand this, that guilt is not morality. It is conditioning. You are trained to believe boundaries equals rejection. Distance equals coldness. Selectivity equals arrogance. But in reality, selectivity is self-respect in action. The hidden power of selectivity. Selective people move differently. They don't chase, they don't explain, they don't overgive, they observe. They decide, they allow access. Not by emotion, but by standards. And something strange happens when you become selective. People respect you more. Your presence carries weight. Manipulators avoid you. And those who stay value you because you are no longer easy. And in psychology, what is not easily available becomes valuable. The shift that changes everything. At some point, every person reaches a threshold where they realize, I cannot keep giving like this. Not out of anger, not out of hate, but out of clarity. And when that moment comes, you don't become loud. You don't become aggressive. You become selective. Selective. Quietly. Strategically. Irreversibly. And that is when everything changes. Because the moment you stop being available to everyone is the moment you become valuable to the right ones. The moment you stop explaining yourself. There is a subtle shift, so small most people miss it. You stop over-explaining. No long paragraphs. No emotional justifications. No desperate need to be understood. Just clarity. Not for me. I'm not available. No. And suddenly, people react. Not because you became rude, but because you became uncontrollable. Why your selectivity triggers people. Let's make this clear. When you become selective, you don't just change your behavior. You disrupt other people's expectations. They were used to your availability, your patience, your emotional labor, and now that access is gone. So what did they do? They label you. You've changed. You're cold now. You think you're better than everyone, but look deeper. This isn't feedback. This is withdrawal symptoms. The psychology of lost access. People don't react to your personality. They react to your boundaries. Because boundaries expose something uncomfortable. They are no longer in control of you. And for many people, especially manipulators. That is unacceptable because their power depended on one thing: your predictability. But now, you're no longer predictable. You pause, you observe, you decide, and that destroys the entire game. The weaponization of your kindness. Before versus after. Before you became selective, you replied fast. You gave second chances. You tolerated disrespect. You explained your pain, and people learned something. You're easy to keep. But after you become selective, you delay responses. You cut access quietly. You stop rewarding bad behavior. You walk away without explanation. And suddenly, the same people who ignored you start noticing you. Why? Because you removed the reward. And as power psychology states, the moment you stop reacting, you stop being controlled. The rise of quiet dominance. This is where most people misunderstand power. They think power is loud, aggressive, dominant, controlling. No, real power is unbothered selectivity. It looks like not reacting to provocation, not chasing attention, not correcting every misunderstanding, not needing validation. You don't prove anything. You position yourself, and that position says, I decide who gets access. Why selective people are hard to manipulate. Manipulation requires three things. 1, your emotional reaction. 2, your need for approval. 3, your fear of losing someone. Remove those, and manipulation collapses. Completely. Because now, guilt doesn't move you. Silence doesn't scare you. Praise doesn't hook you. You see the pattern, and instead of reacting, you disengage. The strategic detachment most people fear. There is a version of you that most people are not ready to meet. The version that doesn't chase closure, doesn't argue to be understood, doesn't stay where they feel disrespected. Not because you don't care, but because you finally care about yourself more. And that level of detachment, it terrifies people because they can no longer control your emotions, predict your reactions, use your empathy against you. The shift from nice to respected. Let's say it clearly. Being nice gets you liked. Being selective gets you respected. And those two are not the same. Nice people avoid conflict, seek approval, overextend themselves. Selective people choose carefully, speak precisely, withdraw without drama. One seeks connection. The other controls exit. The silent upgrade of identity. This is where everything transforms. You stop asking, do they like me? And start asking, do they qualify for my time? That one shift changes your entire reality. Because now, you are not chasing value. You are filtering for it, and people feel it without you saying a word. The day you stop caring differently, there comes a moment, not loud, not dramatic, where something inside you goes quiet. You don't feel the urge to explain. You don't feel the need to fix. You don't feel responsible for everyone anymore. And for the first time, you feel peace. This is not coldness. This is detachment with awareness. As observed in deep psychological transformation, when the empath stops over, they don't become cruel. They become untouchable. You don't lose your empathy. You refine it. Most people fear becoming selective because they think it means losing who they are. But that's the illusion. You don't lose empathy. You direct Italiano. Before, you gave to everyone. You tolerated everything. You absorbed everyone's emotions. Now, you give to those who earn it. You walk away from what drains you. You feel, but you don't carry. That's not less empathy. That's controlled empathy. The birth of psychological immunity. This is where you become dangerous, not aggressive, not manipulative, but immune. Immune to guilt tactics, emotional games, silent treatments, validation traps. Because you finally understand something most people don't. Not every emotion deserves your reaction. Not every person deserves your energy. And not every connection deserves your loyalty. Why? Silence becomes your power. You start speaking less. But when you do, it carries weight. You stop revealing everything. Your plans, your vulnerabilities, your next moves. Because you understand what is exposed too early loses its power, so you move differently now. Quiet progress, private growth, visible results. and people notice, but they can't read you. The final stage, selective access, at your highest level. You don't chase people. You don't test people. You don't try to change people. You simply observe and allow. If they align, they stay. If they don't, they fade. No drama, no explanation, no emotional exhaustion. This is what most people never reach. A life where your peace is not negotiable. Why most people will never reach this level? Because this level requires something rare. Letting go of the need to be liked. Most people would rather be accepted than respected, be included than valued, be liked than powerful, so they stay available, predictable, replaceable. But you chose differently. The identity shift no one can reverse. Once you become selective, you cannot go back, because now you see everything. The patterns, the manipulation, the energy exchange, and once you see it, you cannot unsee it. You no longer ask, why are they like this? You simply decide, they don't get access. The quiet superiority no one talks about. There is a kind of power that doesn't need attention, doesn't need validation, doesn't need to prove anything. It's quiet, calm, /unbothered. You walk into a room, and you don't try to be seen. But people notice, because your energy says one thing, I am not for everyone. And that is what makes you rare. Listen this carefully. You were never meant to be available to everyone. You were meant to be chosen carefully. Be yourself. Because the moment you become selective, you stop being drained. You stop being used. You stop being overlooked. And you become something most people never will. A person who controls their access, their energy, and their value. So the real question is not, why should you become selective? It's this. How much longer can you afford not to be?